Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Raven's Readings. Here are two more of my own stories. I do like writing to a variety of challenges and have done over 100 of these stories so far. You can read them via my website at ravensu.ca. I'll be doing these on Fridays and some of the classics on Tuesdays. Both of these stories feature my fairy tale folk, made famous by the Grimms and now brought to life by a renewed interest in their stories, and in turn they do new stories and give their impact a bit of a magical boost. The prompt for number one was to write about travel, either external or internal journeys. A traveling tale. "I'm such a dirty girl," said Red. "No, you're not," said the witch. "Okay, you did make up for 300 years as a naive little virgin with 48 hours of hot passion with our wolf. So you're definitely now a different girl." "I was desperate and stupid," said Red, "and I guess a little lost." She'd been so desperate for a change that she used one of the witch's potions to give the wolf, usually so gentlemanly, a nudge towards her. Unfortunately, she'd used too much and changed him into a sex fiend, chasing after her day and night. 2 days had worn her out, plus had angered and alienated her friend the woodcutter. "Well, the antidote seems to have worked," said Agnes, and it looks like your overprotective friend Bruce no longer wants to take an axe to Romulus." She pointed to the two guys walking ahead. "Thank God for that," said Red. "Once Bruce realized it was a potion and Romulus was the victim, not me. Well, they were buddies again, heading off to the pub for some beer and cards." "Guys are so simple," said the witch. "And you, still lost?" "No, I'm better, I think," said Red. Things did look better. Bruce had realized he could be more than his woodcutter character, more than just a friend, and had actually asked her out on a date, her first in 300 years. "I'm thinking maybe I have a path to follow now, some meaning other than just what the stories gave us," said Red. "Whose funeral is this again?" asked Bruce. "The fourth little pig," said Romulus. "He wanted to do a house of stone, but they already had straw and wood and brick, so he opened a bed and breakfast instead." "That's different. Did he like it?" asked Bruce. "He did, I guess. I didn't really keep track. He's just someone I used to know." "Well, good for him," said Bruce. "Nice of the Grimms to give us time off between the stories. I heard we're the only ones from the old gang going to this, though. Too bad. I guess he didn't have many friends." "Yeah, well, people change," said Romulus. "Come on, walk a little faster. We need to get there by dinner time." "Do we know this fourth little pig?" asked Red. "Not really," said Agnes. "I met them all years ago in a new story they were trying out. I had thought Wolf knew him well, but he claims not. He went all secretive when I brought it up. I think something's bothering him. Romulus can be passionate in bed, but manages to keep his other emotions bottled up. Come on, they're getting ahead too far. Let's chase him down. You tackle Bruce, I'll grab the wolf." There was only a small gathering for the funeral. In addition to the 4 travelers, there were some locals, a prince or two, and the 3 surviving brothers. As they lined up to give their condolences to the little pigs, the witch introduced them to Red: Huey, Louie, and Dewey. "I know what you're thinking," said Huey, "but we picked these nicknames in the late 1800s. Those other ones in the U.S. are the copycats." The memorial service was set up in a small meadow in front of the 3 houses. The minister spoke eloquently, describing a full life running a B&B and then the quiet years of retirement. Ralph was quite happy with his business. He loved being a host and was quite good at it, but he kept more to himself in his final years, said the minister. Almost seemed lonely at times. He would always perk up, though, when he talked about his younger days with his friends. The witch noticed that Wolf was very quiet during the service, standing off to one side, gazing at the portrait of Ralph next to the minister. After the last words had been said, she walked over to her friend and put a hand on his shoulder. "Hey, you okay?" "Oh, hi," said Romulus. "I thought I'd be okay. I guess I'm not." "Did you know him maybe better than you're admitting to?" "Well, yes," said the wolf. We were pretty close back in the old days. We had a lot of good times together. I even helped him set up his business. There was a lot to do, but we worked hard and partied hard back then, and he really focused on his business too, building it up. But I think he was glad of the choices made. His brothers weren't that close. They're always too busy with the stories or giving speeches at conventions. They had quite a collection of followers. So what happened? Asked the witch. I don't know, he said. I got busy, I guess. I went my way and he went his. Always meant to go and visit, but never did. I just assumed he'd always be around. And of course, being out of the stories meant he became mortal. I felt really bad about it when I heard he died, and felt even worse for not visiting him. I let him down. People drift apart, she said. She put an arm around him. It's okay. You and your friend Ralph had some great times. I'm sure he treasured those times too. Yes, you could have gone to visit, but what's done is done. He'll live on now in the memories of you and all his other friends from the old days. Are many of those friends still around? Yeah, a few, he said. Well, why don't you send them a note and maybe do some visits, she said. Don't wait until it's too late to see them. Come on, let's go into dinner. They found Red and Bruce and followed the small crowd into the dining room. There was a huge buffet table groaning under the weight of bowls of salads, cakes and pies, flagons of ale, and in the middle a pile of golden roast meat. Red picked up a plate, then paled and pulled at the witch's arm. What's that in the middle? She said. What kind of meat is it? It's traditional with these people at their funerals, said Agnes. Roast pork. Every culture has a different death ritual, and this is theirs. Wolf clinked a claw against his plate, looked around, and raised it slightly toward the center of the table. Ralph and I had a lot of good times in the past. I wish I'd seen him more lately, but I'm glad of what we did have and proud to have known him. We all have many good memories of him to treasure. He's gone from us now, but not forgotten. He'll continue to live within us. I'd like to give thanks one last time to our dear friend. To Ralph, he said. To Ralph, echoed the crowd. The end. So nice that Ralph could be with his friends, right to the end. The second story is about good versus good. Two people with noble intentions working against each other, still fairy tale folk. A bit of blue. But what about my boobs? Asked Red. Oh, don't worry, said the witch. Your character will bind them up and add a bit of makeup, keep your voice low. You'll pass for a Civil War soldier. Until I have to pee, said Red. Just find some bushes, say you're shy, said the witch. This new role will be a good experience for both you and Bruce and give you a chance to do something different together. Maybe it'll fire up that boy a bit more, too. Her friend the witch had managed to convince the woodcutter he didn't have to act the same with Red between stories as he did when in them, that they could be more than just the strong, silent rescuer and helpless, naive woman. After 300 years, Red was looking for a little more romance from him, more than just friends. I'm excited about this new role, said Red. I'm glad the Grimm has decided to outsource us, to use our magic to build up other stories. I like this one, said the witch. Sweet and tragic. Now hurry up. They're almost ready to start. Red and Bruce had met up with some of the other characters and had skimmed the backgrounds, and they were ready now. Thomas glanced at his sister. What about your, bosom? Said Sarah. Don't worry, I'll bind it well, and I'll crop my hair, rub some dirt on my face, keep my voice low. I won't allow it, said Thomas. Your place is here on the farm, not as cannon fodder in the Union Army. And your place is not with the Confederacy either, she said. Oh, those are our neighbors, he said. We have to stand together against Lincoln and the other Northerners. They want one big government controlling everything we do. It's against our rights. I think our neighbors are more concerned with their pocketbooks than any federal control, she said. They all need slaves to run their cotton plantations. What about their rights? You didn't mind all the benefits our daddy's plantation brought you, he said. The fancy balls, this big mansion, and he always treated our workers like family. Even let some of the house slaves use his books to learn their letters. But they were still all slaves, she said, and hardly any of our neighbors followed his ways. They all said he was too soft. They were just jealous at how prosperous this place was, he said, and now he's gone, little sister. And there's a war that's already swept over much of the area and burned it to the ground. They had argued for days over this, hiding out in one of the barns with the few survivors, both convinced they were doing the right thing, both trying to convince the other. Time had run out now. Today they were both leaving to sign up. Daddy wouldn't have wanted you to do this, said Thomas. Daddy always told us to do what we thought was right, she said. Besides, I think he secretly wished for another son. In between all the parties and dinners, he didn't mind if I sneaked off and traded my gown and parasol for breeches and a rifle. Well, you did become a pretty good shot, said Thomas. Just one of the best in South Carolina, she said. So I'll ask to be a sniper. That'll keep me safer from getting found out as an imposter, or from getting shot. Come here, I'm something for you. She stood on her toes and wrapped a blue scarf around his neck and gave him a hug and a kiss. This was Mama's favorite scarf, she said. Wear it as a bandana when you go into battle. I don't want to shoot you by mistake, no matter how much you teased me when I was little. Thomas was tired and dirty. They'd been fighting for only a few months, but already he'd seen countless friends and neighbors cut down. Often the only gain or loss was a farmhouse or a small creek. After battle, the infantrymen would argue around the campfires about whether it was all worth it or not. He shared their doubts himself, but was careful to avoid the discussions. As an officer, he was supposed to treat their words as treason. His skills and courage had kept him alive and earned him a spot today next to the general, not just as a servant, but as a protector, ready to give his life if need be. He was rushing after the general when he caught his leg on some brambles. Just a few small cuts, so he grabbed the bandana from his neck and wrapped it quickly around his calf and hurried on. Sarah was tired, dirty, and had to pee. So far she'd managed her role as a man and as a sniper in the Union Army. It helped that her targets were always far away. It kept things impersonal. But even at a distance, as she watched for targets, she was dismayed at how many died and how quickly. Dozens mowed down in a rifle volley or blown apart by a cannonball. And the few times she did talk with her fellow soldiers, some were fired up with her cause, but many were confused and tired. She settled down behind her log, peering over the sights of her Spencer repeating rifle. She had a clear view of the Confederate general and his aide, both all in gray. Too far to identify faces and see which was which, but close enough for an easy shot for her. She'd take out the one on the right and hopefully have time to hit the other one. The end. Well, who will be her first target? Will she even have time for a second shot? Stay tuned for more podcasts, either my own stories on Fridays or some of the classics on Tuesdays. If you subscribe to my newsletter, you'll get the next installment as soon as it's ready. If you enjoy this reading or have other stories you'd like to hear, leave me a comment. And do check out my other posts on my Substack at ravensview.substack.com. Ta-ta for now.